The morning sun painted the Canadian mountains in shades of gold and orange. Jake Morrison walked along the forest trail, checking for signs of hikers in trouble. As a wilderness survival instructor, he knew these mountains like his own backyard. 20 years in the Marines had taught him to notice things others missed. A strange sound caught his attention. It wasn't the usual noise of wind through trees or animals moving in the bush. This was different. Metal hitting rock. Fire crackling where no campfire should be. Jake followed the sound up a steep hill covered in pine trees. Smoke rose from somewhere ahead. He moved faster, thinking someone might be hurt. When he reached the top of the hill, he stopped and stared. A silver ship sat crashed between two large trees. It was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The metal looked smooth and bright, even with burn marks along its sides. Strange blue lights flickered where the ship was broken. Steam rose from cracks in its surface. Jake approached carefully. His military training told him to be ready for anything. As he got closer, he heard a weak voice calling out from inside the ship. The voice sounded strange, like it was speaking through water. He found a hole torn in the side of the ship. Inside, he could see someone lying on the floor, but this wasn't a normal person. The figure glowed with a soft blue light. Her skin looked like it was made of crystal, and her hair moved like it was floating in invisible water. Jake had seen many strange things in his life, but nothing like this. The being was clearly not human. She was also clearly dying. The woman turned her head toward him. Her eyes were large and silver, filled with pain and fear. She tried to speak, but the words came out in a language Jake didn't understand. Then a small device on her wrist began to glow, and suddenly her words made sense. "Help me," she whispered. "The light." Jake looked around and realized what was wrong. Sunlight was streaming through the broken ship onto her skin. Where the light touched her, her crystal skin was turning dark and cracking like burned glass. Without thinking, Jake pulled off his thick jacket and threw it over her. The woman gasped with relief as the jacket blocked the harmful sunlight. Jake then grabbed his emergency blanket from his backpack. The silver material would reflect even more light away from her. "Can you move?" Jake asked, wrapping the blanket around her carefully. "Barely," she replied through the translator device. "My people, we are not made for your star's radiation. It is killing me, slowly." Jake made a quick decision. He couldn't leave her here to die, no matter what she was. His Marine training had taught him that you never leave anyone behind. That rule didn't say anything about them having to be human. "I'm going to carry you to shelter," Jake said. "There's a cave about half a mile from here. No sunlight can reach you there." The alien woman looked surprised. "You would risk yourself for me? You do not even know what I am. You're someone who needs help." Jake replied simply, "That's all I need to know." Jake carefully lifted her in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, but her crystal skin felt strange against his hands. It was warm and smooth, like polished stone that had been sitting in gentle heat. The woman told him her name was Veltara as they made their way through the forest. She explained that she was from a planet called Zephyr, many light years away. Her people were explorers, and she had been studying this part of the galaxy when space pirates attacked her ship. "Pirates?" Jake asked, stepping carefully over fallen logs. "Bad people who steal and kill for money," Veltara explained. "They wanted to capture me. My father is important on my world. They thought they could trade me for valuable things." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. He had fought against kidnappers and human traffickers during his time in the military. It seemed that evil existed even in space. They reached the cave just as Veltara's condition was getting worse. The crystal parts of her skin had stopped glowing, and she was breathing in short, quick gasps. Jake laid her down gently on his sleeping bag, making sure no sunlight could reach her. "Better?" he asked. Veltara nodded weakly. "You saved my life. I do not understand why you helped me." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, checking her injuries. She had several cuts that leaked a silver liquid instead of red blood. My people. We only help others when we get something in return, Veltara said. It is how we have always lived. But you helped me, expecting nothing. This is very strange to me. Jake shrugged as he cleaned her wounds with water from his canteen. Maybe your people need to learn some new ways to live. As he worked, Jake noticed how amazed Veltara seemed by his simple first aid techniques. She watched him use basic bandages and antiseptic, like he was performing magic. Your medicine is so primitive, she said, then quickly added, but it works. How do you know how to treat my injuries when you have never seen my kind before? Same principles apply to most living things, Jake explained. Stop the bleeding. Keep the wound clean. Make the patient comfortable. The rest usually takes care of itself. Veltara stared at him with her large silver eyes. You are not what I expected from your species. Frode. What did you expect? According to our records, humans are violent and warlike. Dangerous. Jake laughed. Well, I can be dangerous when I need to be. But most of us are just trying to help each other get by. Outside the cave, the sound of aircraft filled the air. Jake looked out and saw military helicopters flying search patterns over the mountains. Looks like your crash didn't go unnoticed, he said. Veltara's expression filled with worry. If your military finds me before my people arrive, what will they do? Jake considered the question honestly. Probably try to study you. Ask you a lot of questions. Maybe not treat you as well as I am. And the pirates who shot me down? They're probably looking for you too. Veltara closed her eyes. I have put you in great danger by accepting your help. Jake checked his rifle and made sure his other weapons were ready. Wouldn't be the first time. We'll figure something out. As night fell over the mountains, both human and alien settled in for what they knew would be a difficult few days ahead. Jake woke before dawn to the sound of engines overhead. Through the cave entrance, he could see strange lights moving across the dark sky. They weren't like any aircraft he knew from Earth. Pirates, Veltara whispered from where she lay on his sleeping bag. Her crystal skin was glowing brighter now that she had rested away from the harmful sunlight. Jake grabbed his binoculars and looked up at the alien ships. They were sleek and dark, moving in hunting patterns across the mountain range. Red scanning beams swept the forest below, searching for signs of life. How many? Veltara asked. 3 ships that I can see, Jake replied. Maybe more beyond the mountains. Their sensors will find my biosignature soon, Veltara said, trying to sit up. The crash site still holds traces of my ship's energy. They will follow the trail here. Jake helped her stand. Her legs were still shaky, but she was much stronger than the day before. Can you travel? I think so. Where can we go that they cannot find us? Jake smiled grimly. Lady, I spent 2 decades learning how to hide from people with advanced technology. These pirates don't know what they're up against. He quickly packed his gear while explaining his plan. We're going to move during daylight, when their thermal scanners will have trouble picking us out from the warm rocks and trees. I know caves and old mining tunnels throughout these mountains. Some go for miles underground. But the sunlight will hurt me, Veltara pointed out. Jake held up a spare poncho and emergency blankets. We'll keep you covered. It's not perfect, but it's better than being caught. They left the cave just as the morning sun began to filter through the trees. Jake had wrapped Veltara in layers of protective clothing and carried extra gear to help shield her from the harmful radiation. She looked like a heavily bundled hiker now. As they moved through the forest, Jake noticed how amazed Veltara was by his knowledge of the terrain. He could read signs in broken twigs and disturbed dirt that told him which animals had passed recently, which direction the wind usually blew, and where water could be found. Your people have detailed maps of this area in our databases, Veltara said as Jake led her along a hidden deer path. But you know things no map could show. Maps are just pictures, Jake replied, helping her over a fallen log. The land itself tells you stories if you know how to listen. They had been traveling for 2 hours when Jake heard the sound of helicopters approaching from the south. He quickly led Veltara under a rocky overhang and covered them both with a camouflage tarp. "You're military?" she asked quietly. Jake nodded as 3 black helicopters flew overhead, moving in a search pattern. "Special forces." From the look of them. "They're good, but they're looking for crash survivors, not people actively hiding." After the helicopters passed, they continued deeper into the mountains. Jake showed Veltara how to move without leaving obvious tracks, how to use natural cover, and how to mask their scent from tracking animals. "This is remarkable," Veltara said during a rest break. "On my world, we would use sensor scramblers and stealth fields for this kind of operation." "And what happens if those devices break or run out of power?" Jake asked. Veltara was quiet for a moment. We would be helpless, I suppose. My people have forgotten many basic skills because our technology does everything for us." "Technology is useful," Jake agreed, "but it can't replace knowing how to think and adapt." Late in the afternoon, they reached an abandoned copper mine that Jake knew from his geological surveys of the area. The entrance was hidden behind thick brush and had been sealed off years ago. But Jake knew another way in, through a natural cave system. "We can rest here safely," he told Veltara as they climbed down into the cool darkness. "The rock walls will block their sensors, and there are multiple exits if we need to run." Veltara marveled at the old mining equipment left behind. "Your people dug these tunnels with such primitive tools?" "Human stubbornness," Jake said with a grin. "When we want something badly enough, we'll dig through a whole mountain to get it." That evening, as they sat around a small fire deep in the mine, Veltara asked Jake about human society. She was particularly curious about why humans helped strangers. "On Zephyr, we form alliances based on mutual benefit," she explained. "Family helps family because they share genetic material. Allies help allies because they have formal agreements. But you helped me for no logical reason." Jake poked at the fire with a stick. "Maybe logic isn't everything. Sometimes doing the right thing is more important than doing the smart thing." "But what is right without logic to define it?" Veltara asked. "I guess it's something you feel more than think," Jake replied. "When I saw you hurt and dying, I felt like I had to help. Didn't matter that you were different. Didn't matter that it might be dangerous. It just felt wrong to walk away." Veltara studied his face in the firelight. "This feeling, do all humans have it?" "Most of us, I think. Sure, some people are selfish or mean, but most humans will help if they can. We call it compassion." "Compassion," Veltara repeated slowly. "We have no word for this in my language." The next morning brought bad news. Jake's radio picked up emergency broadcasts from the nearby towns. The alien pirates had begun attacking human settlements, demanding that the local population turn over any crashed aliens. "They're hurting innocent people because of me," Veltara said, her crystal skin dimming with distress. "Not because of you," Jake corrected firmly. "Because they're pirates. This is what evil people do. They hurt others to get what they want." Jake made a difficult decision. Instead of hiding deeper in the mountains, they needed to reach civilization where they could get help. The Canadian military was mobilizing, and Jake hoped that organized resistance could drive off the pirates. "It will be dangerous," he warned Veltara. "We'll have to travel through areas where both the pirates and my own people might spot us." "I understand," she replied, "but I cannot let innocent humans suffer for my sake." As they prepared to leave the mine, Veltara asked Jake one more question. "If you could give up all your advanced technology and return to living like your ancestors did thousands of years ago, would you?" Jake thought about it. "No, I don't think so. Technology makes life easier and helps us do amazing things. But I'd never want to give up the basic human skills either. The problem comes when you let technology replace thinking, not when you let it help your thinking." Veltara nodded thoughtfully. I am beginning to understand why my people's records called humans dangerous. You are adaptable in ways we never considered. Dangerous to enemies, Jake agreed. But we're loyal friends to those who deserve it. They emerged from the mine into the bright morning sunlight, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. 3 days of traveling through the wilderness had taught Veltara things about humans that no database could contain. She watched Jake solve problems with whatever materials he could find, adapt to changing weather, and navigate terrain that would challenge even her people's advanced equipment. When her protective clothing tore on sharp rocks, Jake repaired it with duct tape and pine pitch. When her crystal skin began reacting badly to Earth's atmosphere, he built an air filter using charcoal from their campfire, cloth from his spare shirt, and a water bottle. How did you know that would work? Veltara asked, as the improvised filter helped her breathe more easily. I didn't, Jake admitted. But charcoal absorbs chemicals, and your translator said the problem was atmospheric contamination. Seemed worth trying. You experimented on me with unproven methods? Veltara was shocked. On Zephyr, medical treatments required years of testing and approval by committees of experts. Would you rather I let you suffocate while we waited for a proper laboratory? Jake asked. Veltara considered this. Her people's careful, methodical approach to problems would have meant her death in this situation. Jake's willingness to try imperfect solutions had saved her life multiple times already. Your species is very strange, she said finally. They were hiding in an old ranger station when the radio brought news that changed everything. A Zephyrian rescue fleet had arrived in Earth's outer solar system. At the same time, more pirate ships were dropping through Earth's atmosphere, and human military forces were engaging both groups in confusion. A three-way battle, Jake muttered, listening to the confused radio chatter. Veltara looked worried. My people will assume your military is hostile. They will defend themselves. And my people will think your rescue ships are working with the pirates, Jake realized. Both sides will shoot first and ask questions later. Quote, there must be a way to communicate, Veltara said, to make them understand. Jake shook his head. Not while emotions are running high and people are getting killed. Fear makes everyone stupid. That afternoon, their worst fears came true. A Zephyrian fighter ship, sleek and silver, came under attack by both human jets and pirate vessels over a small town 50 miles away. The alien ship crashed in a field outside the town, and Jake's radio picked up reports of both human and alien survivors. We have to help them, Veltara said urgently. It's a trap, Jake replied. The pirates will be watching that crash site, waiting for exactly what you're suggesting. Then what do you recommend? Jake studied his topographic maps. We circle around. Approach from the north where the terrain is roughest. If there are survivors, we get them out. If it's a trap, we have multiple escape routes. Veltara stared at him. You would risk your life for my people? Same reason I risked it for you, Jake said simply. They traveled all night, moving carefully through terrain that Jake knew would be difficult for the pirates to monitor. When they reached the hills overlooking the crash site, Jake used his binoculars to study the situation. 2 Zephyrian survivors, he reported. Both injured. Human military has set up a perimeter, but they're keeping their distance. And there, he pointed to movement in the woods, at least 6 pirates with energy weapons, waiting for anyone who tries to reach the crash. My people in that ship. They are probably dying from radiation exposure just as I was, Veltara said. Jake made his decision. We go in at sunset. I'll create a distraction that draws the pirates away from the ship. You get to your people and keep them alive until help arrives. That is incredibly dangerous, Veltara protested. Yep, Jake agreed. Got a better idea? When evening came, Jake put his plan into action. He had rigged several small explosive charges using fireworks from an abandoned campsite and placed them around the woods where the pirates were hiding. The explosions wouldn't hurt anyone at that distance, but they would create noise and confusion. As the first charges went off, the pirates scattered, thinking they were under attack by human military forces. In the chaos, Veltara ran to the crashed ship, while Jake provided cover from the ridgeline. She found 2 injured Zephyrian pilots inside the wreckage, both suffering from severe radiation burns. Using the techniques she had learned from watching Jake, Veltara improvised protection for them using pieces of the ship's hull and emergency blankets from a human first aid kit. "Princess," one of the pilots gasped in recognition. "What are you doing here? How did you survive?" "I had help," Veltara replied, "working to shield them from the harmful sunlight. From a human. 4. Impossible," the second pilot said weakly. "Humans are primitive, violent." Just then, Jake appeared at the ship's entrance, breathing hard from his run across the field. "Time to go," he said urgently. The pirates regrouped, faster than I expected. Without hesitation, Jake helped Veltara carry the injured pilots to a safer location deeper in the ship's hull. He used his medical training to treat their wounds, while Veltara translated between them. "He is helping us," one pilot said in amazement. "But what does he gain from this?" "Nothing," Veltara replied. "That is what I have been trying to understand about humans. They help because they believe it is right, not because they expect reward." The pilots stared at Jake as he worked. On Zephyr, such selfless behavior was considered a mental illness. Yet this human had risked his life repeatedly for strangers. "Perhaps our information about this species is incomplete," the first pilot admitted. As night fell, Jake managed to establish radio contact with both human military forces and the Zephyrian rescue fleet. But the communications broke down quickly when both sides demanded the surrender of the other. "They're not listening," Jake said in frustration. "Everyone's too scared and angry. There must be something we can do," Veltara insisted. Jake looked at her thoughtfully. "Actually, there might be, but it means putting you in great danger. Tell me, you're a princess, right? That means both sides will want to capture you alive. If you surrender yourself publicly, it might create enough of a distraction for the real rescue ships to get through." Veltara was quiet for a long moment. "You are asking me to sacrifice myself." "I'm asking you to trust me," Jake corrected. "I got you this far, didn't I?" The injured pilots protested. But Veltara had made her decision. She had learned something from Jake about taking calculated risks for the greater good. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Jake's plan was simple and dangerous. At dawn, Veltara would use the ship's communication system to broadcast on all frequencies, identifying herself and offering to surrender to the human authorities. This would draw every pirate, human soldier, and Zephyrian ship to their location. "And then?" Veltara asked. "Then we run like hell," Jake said with a grim smile. "I know these mountains better than anyone else. If we can reach the old mining complex at Devil's Peak, there are enough tunnels and escape routes to keep them busy for weeks. You would still help me, even knowing what this will cost you." Jake checked his weapons and gear. "Princess, helping people is what humans do best, especially when they're worth helping." As dawn broke over the mountains, Veltara prepared to make the broadcast that would change everything. The broadcast went out at sunrise, reaching every receiver within 100 miles. Veltara's voice, translated into multiple languages, announced her identity and position to all listening forces. "I am Princess Veltara of the Zephyrian Dominion," she said calmly. "I am willing to negotiate with all parties to prevent further bloodshed." Jake watched through his binoculars as the response was immediate and chaotic. Pirate ships changed course toward their position. Human helicopters lifted off from bases across the region. In space, the Zephyrian rescue fleet began moving toward Earth's atmosphere. "Here they come," Jake muttered. Time to move. He and Veltara helped the injured Zephyrian pilots to a hidden cave nearby, leaving them with supplies and a radio. Then they began their desperate journey toward Devil's Peak mining complex. "Why did you not leave me behind?" Veltara asked, as they climbed through rocky terrain. "You could have escaped easily, without me to slow you down." Jake paused to help her over a difficult section of cliff face. "Because that's not who I am. But it would be logical. Your chances of survival would increase dramatically." "No. Maybe," Jake admitted. "But I'd have to live with knowing I abandoned someone who trusted me. That's not survival. That's just existing." Veltara struggled to understand this concept. On Zephyr, logical decisions were always correct decisions. The idea that Jake would choose a harder path because of emotional principles was foreign to her. The first pursuers reached them at midday. 3 pirate fighters, fast and deadly, swept over the mountainside with scanning beams. Jake pulled Veltara under an overhang just as energy bolts scorched the rocks where they had been standing. "They're not trying to capture us," Veltara realized. "They're trying to kill us both." "Change their plan," Jake agreed grimly. "Probably figure a dead princess is worth more than no princess at all." They ran through terrain that would challenge experienced mountaineers. Jake's knowledge of the area kept them ahead of their pursuers, but barely. When human military forces joined the chase, the pressure increased dramatically. "2 groups hunting us now," Jake observed, checking his ammunition. "Military wants to capture us for questioning. Pirates want us dead so they can claim salvage rights. And my people? Still fighting both groups in space. No help coming from that direction." By afternoon, they reached the abandoned mining complex at Devil's Peak. The old industrial site was a maze of tunnels, shafts, and ruined buildings spreading across several square miles of mountainside. "Perfect," Jake said with satisfaction. "They can bring all the fancy technology they want. This place will swallow armies." But as they entered the main tunnel, Veltara suddenly collapsed. Her crystal skin, which had been glowing steadily, began to flicker and dim. "What's wrong?" Jake asked, kneeling beside her. "The radiation exposure," Veltara gasped. "It has been building up for days. My body cannot process it anymore." Jake checked her vital signs as best he could. Her pulse was rapid and weak, her breathing shallow. Without proper medical treatment, she would die within hours. "There's a human medical facility in the valley," Jake said. 20 miles away. If I can get you there." "No," Veltara whispered. "Too far. Too dangerous. You should save yourself." Jake stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something that amazed them both. He laughed. "Princess, you still don't understand humans very well, do you?" Before she could ask what he meant, Jake picked her up in his arms and started carrying her deeper into the mining complex. But instead of running from their pursuers, he was heading toward the sound of approaching aircraft. "What are you doing?" Veltara asked weakly. "Something crazy," Jake replied. "Something that might just work." He carried her to the main entrance of the mining complex just as the first helicopters arrived. Human soldiers surrounded the area while pirate ships circled overhead. In the distance, Zephyrian fighters engaged both groups in aerial combat. Jake walked out into the open, carrying Veltara in full view of everyone. "I want to talk!" he shouted over the noise of engines and weapons fire. "The princess is dying. She needs medical help right now." A human colonel approached cautiously, followed by soldiers with weapons raised. "Put the alien down and step away." "No," Jake said firmly. "She's under my protection." "You want her? You help save her life first." "You're in no position to make demands," the colonel replied. Jake looked up at the pirate ships overhead, then at the human soldiers surrounding him. "Actually, I think I am. See? Everyone here wants her alive. Dead, she's worthless to all of you." Veltara watched in amazement as Jake began negotiating with multiple hostile forces while holding her in his arms. He was using her value as leverage, but not to save himself, to save her. Here's what's going to happen, Jake continued. Your medics are going to treat her radiation poisoning. The pirates up there are going to back off while that happens. And her people in space are going to stop shooting at everyone long enough to figure out a solution. And if we refuse? The colonel asked. Jake's expression hardened. Then everyone goes home empty-handed. Because I guarantee you, no one gets the princess unless she lives through this. A pirate voice crackled over the radio frequencies. Human, give us the alien, and we will spare your life. Counter offer, Jake replied into the colonel's radio. Help keep her alive. And I'll make sure she puts in a good word for you with her rescue fleet. Keep trying to kill her, and I'll make sure your entire pirate organization is marked for extermination by the Zephyrian military. Veltara stared at Jake in wonder. He was protecting her by making everyone else realize their own interests depended on her survival. It was brilliantly simple and completely unexpected. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Jake looked down at her with gentle eyes. Because someone has to stand up for what's right. Might as well be me. The standoff continued for several tense minutes. Then, unexpectedly, the human colonel made a decision. Medic, he called. Get over here and treat her radiation exposure. Now. Kraf. As human medical personnel worked to stabilize Veltara, Jake realized that something fundamental had changed. The pirates had stopped attacking. The human military was providing aid instead of demanding surrender. And in space, the Zephyrian ships had ceased fire. How did you know they would cooperate? Veltara asked as the medication began to help her feel stronger. I didn't, Jake admitted. But sometimes you have to gamble that people are better than they seem. Sometimes they surprise you. As evening fell over Devil's Peak, representatives from all three groups gathered to discuss terms. Jake had accomplished something that sophisticated diplomats and advanced technology had failed to achieve. He had made enemies work together by appealing to their basic humanity. Even pirates, it seemed, had lines they wouldn't cross when confronted with simple moral courage. The negotiation took place in the old mining complex's main building. Representatives from Earth's military, the Zephyrian rescue fleet, and even the pirate crews sat around a table made from mining equipment and emergency supplies. Veltara had recovered enough to serve as translator and diplomatic representative for her people. Jake sat beside her, still amazed that he had somehow become part of an intergalactic peace talk. The pirates must be punished for their crimes, declared Commander Zethran of the Zephyrian rescue fleet. His blue crystal skin glowed with barely controlled anger. They attacked a diplomatic vessel without provocation. Agreed, said Colonel Martinez, representing Earth's military. But they claim they were hired by someone else. We need to know who gave them the contract. The pirate captain, a scarred human named Reeves, looked uncomfortable. Look, we were told the alien ship was carrying valuable cargo. Nobody said anything about attacking royalty. Who hired you? Veltara asked directly. Anonymous contact, paid in rare metals, said the target was a research vessel with experimental technology. Jake studied the pirate's face. Years of military experience had taught him to read people. You're lying about something. What aren't you telling us? Reeves shifted nervously. The anonymous contact. They knew too much about Zephyrian ship movements. Had to be someone with inside information. Commander Zethran's crystal skin darkened with anger. You suggest someone from our own people betrayed the princess? I'm saying someone wanted her dead or captured, Reeves replied. And they knew exactly where to find her. I'm saying, coming man. Veltara felt a chill of understanding. The expedition was secret. Only the High Council knew my exact route and timing. Political enemies? Jake asked. Possible, Veltara admitted. There are those on Zephyr who oppose contact with other species. They believe isolation keeps us pure. Colonel Martinez leaned forward. So this isn't just about pirates and rescued princesses. This is about internal politics in your empire. It appears so. Commander Zethran agreed reluctantly. Which creates a problem. If Princess Veltara returns to Zephyr now, she may face assassination attempts from her own people. Jake had been quiet during most of the discussion, but now he spoke up. What if she doesn't return? Everyone stared at him. Explain, Veltara said. You said yourself that your people need to learn new ways, Jake continued. Maybe the best way to do that is to live among humans for a while. Learn what we can teach you, and teach us what you know. Impossible, Commander Zethran said immediately. The princess has duties to her empire. Which duties? Jake challenged. From what I understand, she's the heir to the throne, but not currently the ruler. She has time to gain experience before she takes power. What better experience than learning about other species? Veltara looked thoughtful. It would be unprecedented. Everything about this situation has been unprecedented, Jake pointed out. Why stop now? Colonel Martinez saw the political implications immediately. An alien princess choosing to live on Earth would be a powerful symbol. It would show both worlds that cooperation is possible. And it would keep her safe from assassins, Jake added. Hard to kill someone who's on another planet. The pirate Captain Reeves cleared his throat. What about us? We're still wanted criminals. Jake looked at him seriously. That depends. Are you willing to help catch whoever hired you? If it means not spending the rest of my life in prison. Yes. Then you work with both militaries to track down the real conspirators. In exchange, you get reduced sentences and the chance to prove you're more than just pirates. Commander Zethran was quiet for several minutes, considering the implications. Finally, he spoke to Veltara directly. Princess, this is your decision to make. But know that if you choose to remain on Earth, there will be political consequences on Zephyr. Veltara stood slowly, her crystal skin glowing with determination. She walked to the window and looked out at the mountains where she and Jake had spent the past week running, hiding, and learning about each other. Mother, she said quietly, addressing the Earth itself. I'm home. The room fell silent. Even the Zephyrian commander was shocked by her words. I choose to remain on Earth as an ambassador between our peoples, Veltara announced formally. I will learn human ways and teach Zephyrian knowledge in return. When I eventually take the throne of Zephyr, I will bring both worlds closer together. Commander Zethran bowed his head in acceptance. As you command, Princess. But you will need a cultural advisor. Someone to help you navigate human society. Veltara smiled and looked at Jake. I believe I have already found one. Jake nearly choked. Wait, what? I'm just a survival instructor. You taught me more about human nature in 1 week than our databases contained about your entire species, Veltara replied. Who better to help me understand humanity? Colonel Martinez grinned. Congratulations, Morrison. You just got promoted to Galactic Diplomat. I don't know anything about diplomacy, Jake protested. Neither did I when I started, Veltara said. We can learn together. 6 months later, Jake found himself in a situation he never could have imagined. He was teaching survival skills to young Zephyrian diplomats in the mountains of Colorado, while Veltara learned about human culture by experiencing it directly. The key to finding water, Jake explained to a group of crystal-skinned aliens struggling with basic camping, is to read the landscape. Plants grow thicker near water sources. Animals create trails leading to streams. One young Zephyrian raised his hand. But our sensors could locate water much more efficiently. Clue. Loaf. 1. What happens if your sensors break? Jake asked. The alien looked confused. We call for technical support? And if technical support is 100 light-years away? Veltara, who was practicing rock climbing nearby, called out, Then you use your mind and your hands to solve the problem. That is the human way. She had adapted remarkably well to life on Earth. Her crystal skin had gradually adjusted to the solar radiation, and she had learned to appreciate simple human pleasures like hiking, camping, and sitting around a fire in the evening. Do you ever regret your choice? Jake asked her one evening, as they watched the sunset from their favorite mountain peak. Never, Veltara replied without hesitation. I have learned that home is not a place or a people. Home is where you choose to build something meaningful. And what are we building? Veltara smiled, her crystal skin glowing warmly in the fading light. A bridge between worlds, a new understanding between species, a better future for both our peoples. Jake nodded, satisfied with that answer. In the distance, a Zephyrian transport ship descended toward the diplomatic compound they had established in the valley below. More young aliens coming to learn about humanity from the species that had taught their princess the meaning of compassion. Still think humans are dangerous? Jake asked with a grin. Absolutely, Veltara replied. Dangerous to anyone who believes that technology is more important than character. Dangerous to anyone who thinks power matters more than principles. She paused, looking out at the vast expanse of mountains and forest that had become her new home. But dangerous in the best possible way. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, both human and alien settled in for another peaceful evening in the wilderness they both loved. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new students to teach, and new bridges to build between worlds. But tonight, they were simply two friends, sharing the quiet satisfaction of work well done and a future full of possibilities.